Hello friends, welcome back to Strategic Management, and we have been talking about strategically managing value chains and developing value webs and management of strategy. If you remember, we discussed different philosophical sides of strategic management with reference to red oceans, blue oceans, fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, environmental sustainability, development as freedom, and so many other sides of how to look at strategic management. But the fundamental which we have been pursuing is that we have to pursue everything and pursue the strategic path towards achieving the vision, how we want this world to be, converting that into business vision. We have talked about so many aspects governing this situation, basically encompassing this situation. But one thing which we specifically talked about is in relation to environmental analysis, internal environment and external environment, and we focused upon elements of external environment also, which constitutes almost everything. So there are few things which we can look at. We may not be able to influence those, but we look at with the perspective of happening to us. There are few things, such things which we can foresee. There are few things which we can't foresee at all. And you see, when we think of that we can't foresee at all, or we may not be able to visualize what may come, that basically somehow doesn't suits us individually as human beings. We don't somehow relish this thought. We don't actually gel with this thought. If I ask you this question, that would you believe that you won't be able to visualize things in today's world, wherein so much of usage of AI and data is there, so many sophisticated devices are there, so much of intelligence and knowledge is there, and everything at our disposal basically. So would you be able to not to foresee anything basically? I am not talking of forecasting specifically. Forecasting, again, there are limitations to forecasting and foreseeing as well, but sometimes we do not accept this thought. But there are outliers, there are situations which we may not be able to foresee at all, which surprise us and which are so pervasive, which are so huge that we get perplexed on what to do. Sometimes those situations, they creep in and they become large. So somehow we don't take them as events basically, although those are events because they constitute a structure around them. But then few things come up suddenly and whole world gets affected. We are still passing through that situation mildly, if I say, and we just pass through the large picture of that situation between 2019, late 2019 to 2022. Yes, I am referring to COVID-19. And then there are such economic situations also. This was a disease. Such economic situations wherein recession, you remember. And then there are climate related situations also, tsunami for example. Then there are large earthquakes which hugely affect major part of this world in terms of as far as first geographically it affects a limited part of the world, and then economically it affects many parts of the world. Then there are large floods which have repercussions around those, and there are several such kinds of events which happen suddenly many a times, or because we never tend to foresee such kind of events. That is why we feel that they have come up somehow suddenly. If we can't foresee such kind of events, but we can imagine that this may happen somehow, there are indicators, there are researches going on, but we are blindsided by those as far as those kind of things go. And that these kind of events, they affect the entire situation, the entire world, the strategy also, because it affects organizations. So, it hinders the strategic path also. it shakes up organizations. Many organizations, they tip down, they drown, and they just abruptly stop functioning, and sometimes they vanish. And precisely this is the thought which I am trying to present in front of you. This thought is presented in the form of Black Swan, proposed by, or popularized by, with this name, by a very eminent author, Nassim Taleb, Nassim Nicholas Taleb, a former options trader turned philosopher and author, introduced this concept of Black Swan in his book The Black Swan. And a very interesting opening to that book, wherein author says that people did not believe many a times that Black Swan exists, and when they found that it does exist, that is the kind of opening the author has given. A very interesting book basically, but it takes us towards that kind of a site wherein he points out that there are some elements, some fallacies with which we live, and fallacies have been referred to by Daniel Kahneman also in Thinking Fast and Slow, and then other authors as well. And it is very interesting, if you will read these authors, you would realize that they have pointed out towards very important aspects of our thinking and decision making, which help us in taking the organizations ahead. So, the name of the book is The Black Swan, The Impact of Highly Improbable. Now, you see, this probability and improbability, that is what he refers to. This was published in 2007, a very interesting book, and I strongly recommend that you should please read that. So, and we have referred to this book through a paper which was written by NAFDA in 2009, Strategies for Managing the Consequences of Black Swan Events, Leadership and Management in Engineering. This is from where we have sourced the details of this book. And the author here has analyzed Nassim Taleb's book basically, although I have also read that and many people have read that. It is a very interesting book. So, in this book, as NAFDA says, that Taleb defines a black swan as an event that is highly improbable, has a massive impact. You see, highly improbable, has a massive impact, and is often rationalized in hindsight as if it were predictable. So, when you talk about with the perspective of that, as I said, sometimes we do not wish to accept that we will not be able to predict few things which happen to us. So, that is why, so I repeat that in the book Taleb defines a black swan as an event that is highly improbable, has a massive impact, and is often rationalized in hindsight as if it were predictable. Taleb argues that many significant events in history, particularly in finance and economics, are black swan, as the author says, NAFTA. And further he clarifies what Taleb thinks. So, the author says here that Taleb wants us to look at some examples which include financial crisis, technological breakthroughs, and geopolitical upheavals. He emphasizes the limitations of human knowledge and the flaws in traditional risk management approaches that fail to account for existence and impact of black swan events. Fail to account for existence and impact of black swan events. Very interesting thought, and let us see what we get further. The term black swan, as NAFDA describes the black swan, is related to describe unanticipated events, has seeped into public consciousness since the publication of the Black Swan, The Impact of Highly Improbable by Nassim Taleb 2007. However, the idea was originally put forward by philosopher David Hume to represent the unexpected and unlikely but not impossible catastrophe that no one ever seems to plan for, the things one does not know. And here I want your specific attention, special attention, the things one does not know or does not know that one does not know. Very interesting and very important. See, the things we do not know, but we do not know that we do not know actually, and that is the important thing. That is where our nature, wherein we resist to accept that we do not know many things, and many a times we do not know that we do not know actually. As black swan events are unpredictable from probabilistic or statistical considerations, most of our analysis is based on these kind of things, probabilistic and statistical considerations. Strategies to cope up with their consequences are of prime importance for engineers, managers and response providers. Although this paper largely focuses upon engineering side or engineers, how decisions, how they should be taking such kind of decisions and how they should be considering black swan events, and those elements largely to do things with great efficiency. But we have from our side added managers and decision making perspective to this thought basically. With all due respect to the author, basically we are not plagiarizing anything here, basically we are using his respected thoughts to associate our perspective here with the element of black swan which Professor Nassim Nicholas Taleb has explained. So, behavioral scientists, and why do we underestimate black swan risks? So, that is again an important element, and the paper describes this aspect and puts a question mark here, that why do we underestimate black swan risks? Behavioral scientists postulate that human experiences are often tainted with personal biases and formed from a rather limited time span of observations compared to the likelihood period of most extreme events. Personal biases, personal thoughts, many a times personal experiences, and sometimes you would have you would have said this, or you would have heard someone saying that I think so. That is the perspective actually. So, and it comes along with our personality since the childhood, most of the times. So, consider the experience of people in Indian Ocean region, as the paper further describes, that consider the experience of people in the Indian Ocean region who had likely never observed or even heard about tsunami, whether in normal discourse or in folklore. I was flying from one country to the other country. I remember when tsunami just passed, and the pilot of the plane took us over the place where tsunami washed off the complete habitat, and he showed us, he announced on that here there was a small town which is not at all there, completely grounded. So, that is the perspective. Wars, unexpected wars, they also represent such kind of events wherein people they say that this may happen, and suddenly it happens. So, that is again is associated with that kind of a thought also, because it affects so many people. So, except for few experts, almost no one was aware of their reality, and considering the absence of any past observed occurrence or experience, no one had visualized this unusual event, tsunami. And believe me, if you will read about this, I saw that those things on television also, and traveled to those areas after tsunami, and it was devastation. Everything was washed away, and waves, very high waves, they came in suddenly and things got out of hand. So, these are the kinds of events which the author wants us to look at. So, and that is why he has raised this question, why do we underestimate black swan risks? So, in hindsight, it is clear that there was no engineering redundancy that would save the residents if a large enough storm dumped water in short duration and the leaves were breached, that embankments, the banks of the sea would wash away. So, embankments would wash away. And it may be because engineers and managers do not like uncertainty and ambiguity. That is what author proposes, that probably they work on precision. So, it may be because engineers and managers do not like uncertainty and ambiguity many a times, focus on specifics instead of generalities, and crave explicit explanations. Such thinking is shaped by their training in linear logic, whereas nearly all black swan events involve complex causal relationships. Now, there are as author describes, and he is analyzing Black Swan, the book, 5 peculiarities. He talks about 5 peculiarities of human behavior responsible for blindness to black swans. Why we are unable to think about those? First is, humans tend to categorize focusing on pre-selected data that reaffirm beliefs as opposed to any contradictions. Similar kinds of things, Daniel Kahneman has also talked about, and many authors they have indicated those kind of elements. So, this is called confirmation bias. The second aspect is, humans construct stories to explain events and see patterns in data when none exist due to illusion of understanding, and that is narrative fallacy. Human nature is not programmed to imagine black swans. Are we that ignorant? We are. We are. Humans tend to ignore this silent evidence and focus disproportionately either on the failures or successes. Humans overestimate one's knowledge, and this is an important point, and we should be reminded of these kind of things. Humans overestimate one's knowledge and focus too narrowly on one's field of expertise, that is, with a tunnel vision, ignoring other sources of uncertainty and mistaking concocted models for reality, that is ludic fallacy. Let us see these one by one very briefly and then try to analyze where do we reach. So, confirmation bias. Confirmation bias refers to the human tendency to notice and seek out information that confirms one's existing beliefs or prevailing dogma while ignoring or undervaluing contradictory evidence. On the lighter side, many a times when we have a particular kind of an experience, we advise people on the career they must have through our experiences, and I have been shaken up by so many people on this. I can tell you this by experience, and many a times I have found myself wrong. Please do not tell this to anyone, I am accepting this in front of you. So, this bias can lead to the reinforcement of pre-existing worldviews and the dismissal of alternative perspectives. Throughout history, confirmation bias has been evident in various fields. Einstein had to challenge accepted wisdom to develop his theory of relativity. You may read further into the theory of relativity to understand this. Then comes in narrative fallacy. The narrative fallacy, a byproduct of confirmation bias, involves drawing false conclusions from limited data observations. This phenomenon, also known as anchoring, our thoughts are anchored to something. So, this phenomena, also known as anchoring, leads individuals to project observed events into the future in a linear fashion, overlooking randomness and creating misleading narratives. So, inherent human nature, confirmation bias is exacerbated by inherent human tendencies such as the difficulty in anticipating infrequent events. This struggle can lead to lapses in judgment, as observed in incidents involving nuclear operators and military personnel. Silent evidence. Silent evidence refers to the difference between the sample constructed for analysis and actual reality, leading to systematic errors. And now, this is very interesting. For instance, individuals may perceive a lower crash risk when framed as 1 in 1000 years. For example, someone tells you that one crash happened in 1000 years. So, that's just a lower risk perspective. And if someone says then that 1 out of 1000 airplanes, probably this would give you a different kind of a picture. For example, 99% germs free or 1% germ full, what would you think of that? Slight kind of. So, then ludic fallacy. The ludic fallacy warns against oversimplifying complex reality and underestimating the impact of unknown unknowns or black swans. So, black swans are unknown unknowns. Probabilistic models based on in-box thinking cannot account for out-of-box events, highlighting the limitations of confirmation bias. Then let us see, are there the white swans are white, so but author has tried to describe that black swans to grey swans to white swans and so on. So, what are white swans? These represent events that are completely predictable using well defined procedures and past experience. They are essentially known knowns where the outcome is expected and manageable. Example, routine equipment maintenance based on historical failure rates in manufacturing plants. Grey swans, swans can be grey. Grey swans, and this is about events actually. So, grey swans refer to events that are known unknowns. They are characterized by parameters that vary over a wider range, making them harder to predict using traditional methods. So, grey swans often require probabilistic risk-based approaches for assessment and management. Example, earthquakes in regions not historically prone to seismic activity. There were huge rains in United Arab Emirates recently. Black swans. Black swans represent events that are unknown unknowns, meaning they are not foreseen based on observed data. These events are highly unpredictable and defy probabilistic estimation. Black swans are characterized by their rarity, high impact, posing significant challenges for risk management strategies. Example, an unexpected terrorist attack with no prior indications, making it difficult to anticipate or mitigate its impact completely. Strategies to manage adverse consequences. And let us see, author has proposed some strategies also. So, there are inherent challenges in forecasting and managing outlier events in life as well as in businesses. With the recognition of forecasting limitations and the unpredictability of such events, traditional risk management approaches may prove inadequate. Truly so. Instead, engineers, managers and strategists, we have added managers and strategists here. Author is talking about engineers primarily, but I as a scholar of strategy and my team, they suggested that we can think of managers that way as well. So, instead engineers and managers and strategists are urged to rely on their experience and judgment to develop pragmatic strategies for prevention, detection and mitigation of adverse consequences. By adopting flexible and adaptive approaches, focusing on achievable safety goals rather than perfection and drawing on a repertoire of suitable tactics, managers can better navigate the complexities of risk management in the face of uncertainty. What can be the prevention strategies? So, hazard avoidance via site selection. And this is primarily with the perspective of how engineers should think. So, this example may give us that kind of a view wherein what can be the prevention strategies. So, one fundamental approach to hazard management involves strategic site selection. By carefully considering past experiences and utilizing guiding principles, organizations can minimize risk associated with location based hazards. Examples such as siting buildings away from flood prone areas underscore the importance of proactive decision making in hazard avoidance, quite logical. Then again, hazard avoidance using barriers, employing physical barriers and enhanced security procedures represents another crucial aspect of hazard management. By implementing multiple safety barriers and stringent security measures, organizations can fortify their defenses against potential threats. Case studies such as security regulations at embassies and offshore facilities highlight the effectiveness of barriers based approach in risk reduction. We can utilize similes in when we are thinking in terms of business as well. What can be the prevention strategies to immune our businesses from such kind of situations, and these are particular kinds of indicators, how to go about that. The predictive capabilities, and when we talk of that, hazard avoidance can be, that can be a prevention strategy wherein hazard avoidance using event predictions or detection. The predictive capabilities afforded by sophisticated mathematical models play a pivotal role in hazard avoidance. By leveraging real time data and advanced algorithms, organizations can forecast impending events and enact timely responses. Examples such as storm prediction by National Hurricane Center, and India we have several organizations and national systems also underscore the significance of predictive analytics in minimizing the impact of natural disasters. Then hazard avoidance from operational procedures, and wherein there are several kinds of processes we can involve to mitigate or to avoid such kind of things basically. And author has indicated about the case studies such as Port Blair operations manual demonstrate the efficacy of procedural adherence in averting potential disasters also. We can think that this may happen and we create a manual for us. Hazard avoidance through education and training also can be done, and Examples such as specialized training for aviation personnel and oil spill mitigation underscore the critical score of education in hazard avoidance also. So, we can create that kind of a structure around us. And you see, we can keep on thinking in terms of worst which may happen, or we can keep on digging into the researches, and smallest of the indicators can be considered into our accounting, that somehow if this happens then this may be done, basically, because it is a long strategic path and we are talking of a long life of an organization, basically. There is another very important expression book which Nassim Taleb has written, and that I also want to put up very briefly in front of you with the perspective of how to look at strategic management and managing strategies. The hidden role of chance in life and in the markets. Fooled by randomness, the hidden role of chance in life and the markets is the name, by Nassim Nicholas Taleb, explores the pervasive influence of randomness and uncertainty in our lives and financial markets. You see, the author has drawn our attention towards black swans, and then author has drawn our attention towards the hidden role of chance in life and the markets, indicating that there is a cord connecting all the elements which he tries to propose in front of us, that situations can be completely out of hand. And I would be talking about what we thought when COVID came in, while we proposed this perspective of stop predicting and live life, lessons learned from COVID-19. So, Taleb argues that humans tend to underestimate the role of chance and over attribute success to skill or knowledge, leading to erroneous beliefs and flawed decision making. Through anecdotes, examples and insights from probability theory, Taleb challenges conventional wisdom and emphasizes the importance of understanding randomness to navigate uncertain environments successfully. Importance of understanding randomness. Everything may not have a pattern, or if it is related to a pattern, the distance between the two events would be so huge that we have forgotten about the past event. For example, COVID-19 came in, but when the similar kind of a virus came in, that was long back, Spanish flu, and we absolutely forgot about that. The book serves as a cautionary tale against overconfidence, that this may not happen ever, although it has a desire, advocating for humility, adaptability. So, Taleb advocates for humility, that we, as I said, that sometimes when you look at the situation, you feel that I submit to you, let us see what happens and let us welcome what happens. Ultimately, we can't do much, and keep on driving ourselves, holding our hands together for the purpose of prosperity and opulence. So, the book serves as a cautionary tale against overconfidence, advocating for humility, adaptability and a deeper appreciation for the unpredictability of life and markets, a deeper appreciation for the unpredictability of life and markets. We should appreciate unpredictability, because that may become a guiding force for us to hold our hands together, to have our values intact, to somehow keep our culture intact, to nurture that and to take everything together towards a long path while being together for the purpose of prosperity and opulence. I will be catching up back with you while I will be talking about sustainable development goals in relation to strategy and strategic management, and then I will be going to proposing this thought of stop predicting and steer the things, basically, before I would conclude this whole course 3 sessions from now. Just wait till then. Till then, goodbye.